Welcome to today's briefing about Together Bay Area. We welcome those of you who are joining us live and for all of you who will watch this later. I'm Annie Burke, I'm Executive Director of Together Bay Area, and I'm Zooming here in today from Muwekma Ohlone territory, where Chochenyo is still spoken today. And before we start, we want to acknowledge that we are all on Indigenous land. Every inch of the United States is Indigenous land. And we acknowledge the brutal history of this place. We respect and honor the tribes and Indigenous people living here today. We're humbled by their resilience, and we are taking steps within Together Bay Area to center Indigenous leadership. So thank you. Together Bay Area is a regional coalition of tribes, nonprofits, and public agencies, all working for climate resilience and equity. Our members directly or indirectly serve all 8 million human residents of the Bay Area, and they're located in all 9 counties that touch the Bay, as well as Santa Cruz, because those mountain lions don't know where the county lines are. So we include Santa Cruz in our coalition. Today, we're talking about what we like and want to see more of in terms of public funding and policies, especially as we start a new year. And as we start a new legislative session. So this is meant to be a conversation today in the next 25 minutes, but also forever. So we really, really value your collaboration, your participation, your questions, any information that you want to share, especially as things change. And as we all know, things are definitely changing. We invite you to ask questions in the chat for those of you watching live. And we'll respond as soon as we can. We'll also have time at the end for Q&A, and whatever we don't address today, we're happy to follow up with you afterwards, or you're also welcome to reach out to me or to Marc. And speaking of, I'm joined today with a colleague and leader in our region, someone who works for a Together Bay Area member, who participates on our policy committee, and who knows his stuff. And I'm really pleased to introduce Marc Landgraf, External Affairs Manager from Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority. Welcome, Marc. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks, Annie. And I'm doing really well today because we got snow at our 2,000-foot elevation where I live, and I can't wait to get on my cross-country skis and get out there. But I'm really happy to see everybody here. Thank you so much for joining. I know everybody's busy, and we're going to make the best use of this time we have in the next 23 minutes or so. But I want to just express my appreciation for what all of you do to make life better for all Californians. I understand that you have our policy platform, so I'm not going to read it to you. I will save you that pain. Annie will send a link to it in the chat. And instead, what we'd like to do is give you a quick tour of who the Together Bay Area members are, at least highlight some of them, as a way of highlighting the issues that we care about and how we can partner with you for a climate resilient and equitable Bay Area. This is how we want to give you an idea of what we're all about and what our priorities are. So we don't have time to talk about all 65 members, but here are some examples. So I'm just going to jump right in. And as Annie said, please feel free to ask questions in the chat as I'm going along, and certainly we'll have time for a Q&A afterwards. So of course, I'm going to start with the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority based in San Jose. We work on places like Coyote Valley that hopefully many of you have heard of, where a wildlife corridor that's protected, wetlands, and floodplain, agriculture, all these together provide climate-related benefits to the local communities, to the region, and to the state. Another member of Together Bay Area is the Peninsula Open Space Trust, or POST, who has brought you hundreds of millions of dollars, many of those leveraged private dollars, to bear for land conservation on the peninsula over the past 40+ years, and has done so much more for conservation. We have the larger open space districts like, just for example, Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District and East Bay Regional Park District, which together in the 4 Bayside counties that they work in provide for over 30 million open space and parks visits a year. 30 million. That's a lot. We also have indigenous tribes, as Annie was referring to earlier, that are represented at Together Bay Area, like the Amamutsun Land Trust and the Mwakma Ohlone tribe of San Francisco Bay, from whom we still have so much to learn about respectful stewardship of the land, especially with regard to wildfire resilience over the long term. So Annie, I know we're just scratching the surface here on the membership that we have, but are there others that you want to mention?
There are, well, here on the call, we have Save the Redwoods League, we have the Claremont Canyon Conservancy, we have the California Mountain Bikers Association, Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District, but we also have some of our members like Yes Nature to Neighborhoods and Brown Girls Surf, which in their own ways are community-based organizations connecting Black, Indigenous, people of color to nature. We have water agencies that are delivering all kinds of services, namely water, but so much more, like San Francisco Public Utilities Commission, East Bay Mud, Marin Municipal Water District, Valley Water, and Sonoma Water, who also, in addition to delivering drinking water to all of us, also manage thousands and thousands of acres of watersheds. And right now, of course, they're busy preparing for the atmospheric river that's headed our way pretty soon this week. But also flood control and multiple other natural infrastructure kind of services. Our members also include county parks departments, which provide critically essential nature-oriented services. They're also stepping up in big ways right now, and have been over the past year in response to COVID and providing disaster relief and emergency services. I could talk for a few hours about how amazing our members are, and I know you don't all really need that. So I'll stop here, but just please know that there are so many in the breadth and the depth of our members. There's just so much good work happening to connect people to nature, to create healthy lands, healthy people, and healthy communities. And we're all here part of Together Bay Area to work towards climate resilience and social equity. So yeah, I'll stop there.
No, so that's right, Annie. You know, through our Together Bay Area members and our members, we reach a huge part of the Bay Area and are representing that breadth in the priorities that we're expressing to you here today. So with that, shall we jump to the 2021/22 legislative session?
Let's do it. So it started, and of course things have changed. You know, January has been an eventful month in terms of American government, and also here within the state. The governor's shared his proposed budget for the coming year. Bond language is being worked on. And so I would love to hear from you, Marc, about how Together Bay Area's priorities get translated into some of that legislation and policy.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. And I think this is where we want to spend a little bit more of our time here in expressing our priorities. So Governor Newsom's proposed budget that was announced on January 8th provides a broad spectrum of climate resilience funding. And we're really excited about the funding that was put into that proposal, and just want to call out a few things that we want to especially highlight as important to us and our membership. So the $1 billion for wildfire and forest resilience is really significant and very important to our membership. I mean, we all had such a horrible fire year this past year, and we know that that resilience needs to be stepped up. And so we want to express support not just for the $1 billion overall, but especially for the early action appropriations that the governor has proposed, including but not limited to the wildfire resilience. And also want to call out the $323 million that were proposed to supplement the current year budget specifically for wildfire prevention. So in addition to that, I want to call out other funding that was in the governor's proposal for natural and working land investments in support of EO N8220, the 30 by 30 executive order. And the natural and working lands investments that so many of our members are helping to implement are extremely important, both near term and over the long term. So there are many there. I don't want to go into detail right now, but just know that those are an important priority for us. One thing I will call out specifically, though, is we really were pleased to see the $70 million to the California Food and Department of Food and Agriculture for climate smart agricultural programs. We thought that was definitely a step in the right direction. And so then, in addition to talking about the governor's budget proposal, we also want to talk about the economic recovery and climate resilience bond measures. So we are very thankful for Assemblymember Mullen, his leadership as a Bay Area Caucus member, of course, in developing climate resilience bond legislation in partnership with Assemblymember Garcia and others. And we're, of course, very supportive of the Senate's version of the climate resilience bond as well, in SB 45 being led by Senator Portantino. We also support the intent of AB 125, which is Assemblymember Robert Rivas's food and agriculture bond legislation, currently just a spot bill, but we look forward to learning more about the details of that and generally express support for it. So beyond those specifics, one thing I want to talk a little bit more about, because it is central to who we are at Together Bay Area, what our members have expressed support for on an ongoing basis, and it's sort of representative of the breadth and depth of the work that we do, is that the State Coastal Conservancy has been an especially important partner to our membership and will continue to be. They have both the capacity as well as the mission breadth that works across the priorities that we have for land conservation, for equitable public access, for biodiversity, nature-based solutions to climate change. And we would encourage current budget proposals as well as future bond measures to include significant support for Coastal Conservancy and to allocate at least 20% of those funds to the San Francisco Bay program that serves the 10-county Bay region. One more thing I want to mention, and then we'll allow some time, Annie, I think, for some Q&A. But I want to mention that through especially certain members of Together Bay Area in leading this charge have urged the adoption of under-resourced communities definition that determines eligibility for struggling communities, because it provides inclusive eligibility for struggling communities across the state. The under-resourced communities is more broad than some of the current definitions of disadvantaged communities, and allows OES's definition and analysis methodology of vulnerable populations used in the state hazard mitigation program. And it just accounts for such a broader variety of socioeconomic factors that it tends to be more inclusive and more what our members have been calling for. So with that, I think we've sort of done a little bit of a fire hose here of some of the priorities that are important to us, and we wanted to give a chance for others to ask questions and weigh in.
Thank you so much, Mark. I want to start off with a question that was chatted to me directly about the Coastal Conservancy. And as the name suggests, it's coastal. But as you know, and others I think here know, that it's watersheds that especially the Bay program, brings the coast into the San Francisco Bay, but also works from the ridge lines down and is in all 9 counties. Mark, could you just speak real quickly to, what does the Coastal Conservancy fund, and both in terms of geography or topography, but also in terms of programs?
Yeah, thanks, Annie. And very good question. I'm glad it was submitted. And so the Coastal Conservancy works not just at the very coast, as Andy was describing, but to the inland areas in watersheds that drain to the coast. And what's really important about the work the Conservancy does is that it is broad across land conservation and also that includes wildlife habitat, watershed protection for water resource reasons, water quality reasons, et cetera. But it also provides funding for planning, which is harder to come by very often. It's a very important element of what the Coastal Conservancy supports, so that we can work with our partners to put more thoughtful long-term plans in place, and that way also build ownership of those plans. And they also provide funding for increasing equitable public access. And they even have their own equitable public access programs, bringing underserved populations from underserved communities to the coast. And so the breadth of what they do, as well as their very efficient process in bringing those funds to bear, and ultimately providing the benefits for the people in the Bay Area, as well as all along the coast. Ultimately, that's what it's all about. And so that's what we really want to see the Coastal Conservancy funded for.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark. All right, I'd love to open it up. If anybody has questions, you can, if you want to raise your real hand or your Zoom hand, or if you'd like to type a question into the chat, either way works for us. Any questions from the group? While we wait, I'll give you all a second to think and type. Mark, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about timing. You mentioned the Assembly bill. If they're kind of where we are in the process in terms of a potential bond measure.
Yeah, AB 125, the food, or are you talking about the climate resilience measure? Yeah, I think it's being developed as we speak. And we know that bills have to be introduced by early February deadline. So we expect something in the next 2 weeks. I don't know if anyone else has more specific information than that. I think there's a flurry of activity underway.
Great, thanks. I open up the floor if there's anyone else who would like to jump in, either on information on timing and climate resilience bond or the state budget. Now we have a few folks from legislative staff here, and also some Together Bay Area members. I'm going to take that as it's lunchtime. Jess, do you want to jump in?
Well, I mean, can you guys hear me okay?
Oh, can you speak up?
My speakers don't work well. You can hear me? Okay. I am assuming that based on
you're right, your speakers are funny. You want to type it in and we'll go that way?
Yeah.
No problem at all. We're all very accustomed to the trials and tribulations of Zoom life. So Jess got a question. If anyone else wants to jump in with either information or questions about Together Bay Area and what the work that we're doing, we welcome it.
Well, and I think as Jess is typing, if I can just add, Annie, as I think Annie was talking about this earlier, but we really want to partner with legislators and legislative staff, not tell them what we want out of every bill or funding measure, but really want to work to support you in the work that you do so that we can find better solutions together. So we would very much welcome opportunities to have discussions, provide more information, have interviews with some of our members if that's helpful. I think any of those are fair game, and know that we'll be following up with more information as well, but I'm sure Annie will talk more about that later as well.
Really good point. Thanks, Mark. We've found over the past year that we've been able to play an important role of sharing information about what's happening on the ground with members of legislation and the governor's administration, because we can't go to those events or ribbon cuttings or tours in the same way that we used to. So we're here as a resource as well. All All right, so Jess, I'm going to be your spokesperson. Based on hearings posted on the Assembly's website, it appears that action on the proposed wildfire package could happen as early as March 10th. And just sharing that information and wondering if there's anything else that folks would like to add to that or ask questions about. But it's happening soon, although about a month, a little over a month away. Thank you for sharing. All right. Is there any other questions? If not, we'll let you go back to your regular scheduled programs. But give it one more minute to see if anyone has any questions. While you type or think of your question, we are preparing more information so that we can support our elected officials and our partners to advocate for or legislate around climate resilience and equity. So you'll be hearing from us in the next few days. But we're always here if we can help or if we can provide information.
And if I can include just a quick public service announcement while we have a few seconds, I did want to let folks know who weren't already aware that Thursday morning this week, there will be an international webinar with partners of ours in France and co-hosted by the Nature Conservancy about climate resilience that peri-urban areas add to our urban communities. And we will be sending out a link to sign up for that free webinar if anybody's interested.
All right, thanks, Mark. Work happening here in the Bay Area with global impacts and global partnerships. It's pretty exciting. All right, if you have questions or want to get more information, we're here. Please reach out. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your service, especially in this time where it's so challenging. We're also isolated and the challenges are so big, but this is really an amazing opportunity, if we can see it that way, to make some transformational changes to how we live together and how we take care of this place that we live on and depend on. So we are with you in the challenges and we are with you in the opportunities. So please take care, stay safe, and see you soon. Thank you, Megan.